Stalker in the forest. Okay, so this happened to me earlier and I don't think I'll be sleeping tonight. I'm currently staying in a remote part of the United Kingdom and having a break from working, which means more time to pursue my hobbies, one being photography. I had scoped out a creepy-looking tree formation in a nearby forest and set my camera and tripod up as the sun was coming down, you know, for that extra creepy vibe. As I'm happily taking photos, I see a woman pass the entrance to the arch trees. This woman had parked her car next to mine when I arrived. She went past a couple of times, looking at me for prolonged periods with each time she passed. I assume she wants to come up this path but sees that I'm taking photos, so decides to walk elsewhere. Approximately 5 minutes go by and she appears again, this time walking towards me, dragging her left side slightly with this strange limp. She stops once and stares at me for a few seconds, then starts walking towards me again. I ask her if she's okay. I'm starting to put my camera away at this point and readying my tripod to use for self-defense if necessary because the vibe I'm getting is way off, and she starts grunting at me, then stops and stares again. It's at this point that this woman is close enough for me to realize that she's actually a man in a woman's clothing, with a wig. An uncomfortable moment passes and she starts grunting again, walks towards the edge of the path. Grabs a pile of leaves and starts throwing them around, grunts some more and then walks off aimlessly into the forest. I call my friend to tell her what has happened and ask that she stays on the phone in case this person comes back. I'll just take a couple more photos and then I'm out. For a good 10 minutes I hear the crunching of leaves circling me in the forest and I just convince myself that it's the wildlife. Then, silence. I take the photos and I haven't seen/heard the person for around 15 minutes now, so I assume I'm safe. I leave the path and see that the car has gone, thank fuck. However, I very quickly notice that there is a man walking towards me from the entrance. It's the same fucking guy. He has changed into men's attire and as he walks past me, he shoots me a grin that sends shivers down my spine. I don't scare easily, but this guy just gave off all of the wrong signals, causing this overwhelming feeling of dread to wash over me. I'm still on the phone at this point and holding my tripod over my shoulder, just in case. I quickened my pace and got back into my car. As I did so, I saw him come out of the lane I had been down. Stop and look around, then start walking towards my car with intent. This part is all on video. I video for a while and then haul the fuck out of there, driving past his car that he had moved down the road and thinking, what? I in the gray beard. Fuck. Just happened, limping, leaf throwing, forest stalker. I hope we don't meet again. Note. I did report this to the non-emergency police number just because it was so fucking weird and I absolutely got the whole, this guy could hurt someone, feeling as I walked past him. Not going into that forest anymore. This happened to my roommate and I 2 years ago, when we drove into the national forest just outside of the town we live in. We go to a small college in New England, about 3 hours from any major city. For context, this forest has quite a few urban legends surrounding it, and the local community, although they do go there often, have a lot of superstitions about how to be safe while there. I had just broken up with my partner and my roommate could sense I was feeling down. Finals were just around the corner, so she decided to help me get my mind of things, and suggested we go to a nice spot she had found last week, and just chill and de-stress. We took a couple of beers with us and drove to this secluded spot in the forest. From the moment we left the main asphalt road in the forest, I saw a couple of things that unsettled me. You could see the abandoned houses of a ghost town from the higher ground the road was on, and we saw this old doll hanging from a rope on a tree. Creepy shit, but we didn't really give it a second thought and kept driving. We got to a clearing and parked our car behind some trees, popped open the back of our SUV, and started just talking and playing music. About 10 minutes into this, 2 cars appeared from the road and parked in the clearing. My friend didn't pay them attention, instead she kept talking, but as I was facing them from where I sat, I couldn't stop seeing what they did. A guy popped out of each car, talked for a few minutes, and then I saw them take out a long object covered in a dark plastic bag from the back of one of the cars. This is when I noticed these guys had guns, and not like shotguns, which I see often in this town, but handguns. Then they started lighting the bag on fire. I told my friend to get down, and she turned around and saw them for the first time. Black smoke was rising from the bag, and between trying to keep my head down and steal glances at them, I saw them take out a second object, and heard them shoot at it, right before they set it on fire. I don't know how long my friend and I were lying there in silence, but it was definitely enough to let the terror sink in and whisper to each other how much we loved each other in case this was what we thought it was. At some point I looked up, and saw that they were pointing at our car and saw them walking into the woods, maybe trying to follow our tracks or trying to look for us. All I know is that right then I told my friend to jump into the driver's seat and make a run for it. I shut the back door, and between that and the car starting up, the guys heard it and started running towards us, then ran towards one of their cars and hopped in. We went over a hill, and driving way above what was safe for dirt roads on a hillside, we lost them. We drove to a neighboring town and roamed around for a while, just to make sure no one was following us, before we went back to our dorm. That day, we tried to make fun of the whole situation and got really drunk before finally breaking down and crying from knowing we had seen something we were not supposed to. We were at first terrified of telling anyone, but eventually did tell officers on campus, who contacted the police, but never found anything. He drove me to a forest. I have had the misfortune of coming across a few scary guys in my life. My friends will say I'm a weirdo magnet, so I'm pretty wary and clued up now. I'm a bit older, but when I was a teenager, I suppose you could say I was very naive. Back when I was 20, me and my family, my mom and little sister, had moved from a small rural village in the Shires to a town down south. It was a huge change, and as I had been having a difficult time, I welcomed the change of scenery. It was a beautiful town in an affluent part of the country, but I struggled to find a job and became very frustrated as my mom needed a bit of help with money. Over the course of about 3 months, we became fairly friendly with a middle-aged guy who owned a takeaway shop in town. I will call him Philosophy. If ever he saw us doing some shopping, he would come and chat and ask how the family were, and he genuinely seemed like a decent, caring bloke. So when he said he might have a job for me in his shop with a small flat upstairs I could rent for next to nothing, I thought, okay, great, maybe things are looking up. Phil got our address and told me and Mum he would pop by early evening time when he had finished and take me in the car to go and see the flat. I get myself looking fairly casual but presentable, and I'm feeling excited and confident, thinking, wow, a job and a flat, 4 killed 2 birds with 1 stone here. I just need to show him I'm sophisticated and would make a great employee. Around 8 p.m. he knocks on the front door and Mum answers. He tells her we will probably only be about half an hour and he will have me back safe and sound in no time. Now, I didn't take my phone with me as I had no credit to call out and didn't think I would be needing it for a quick trip up the road and back. In hindsight, a pretty stupid thing to do. Maybe if I had my phone on me would have deterred him from what he was about to do. It's already dark out as it's March. I get into his car and we start driving, and he is chatting away asking how I am and telling me what the flat is like, when within a matter of a few minutes notice that we are not taking the conventional route that takes us directly into town. At first I think he is taking me down some sort of shortcut round the town to get to it, and just reason with myself that he knows the area well and I don't. 30 seconds after, I realize he is taking me in the completely opposite direction, and I can tell that we are driving away from the populated town and into an area where trees swamp both sides of the road. My brain is now working overtime thinking, where the fuck is this guy taking me? And I just about manage to keep my composure and I ask him outright, where are we going? Town's back the other way. Just thought I would take you on a little tour. It's beautiful here, many forests and peaceful places I would love to show you, he tells me in his normal cheery tone. I wasn't capable of saying anything at that moment because the logical and the reasoning sides of my brain were in a full-blown war. I'm trying to keep calm thinking, okay, he seems fairly normal, why wouldn't he want to show me around? It is a stunning area full of natural beauty. He is probably proud to show me where he lives. The logical side, however, disagreed, and a wave of panic comes over me and a little voice enters me head and shouts, "What in the dark? Shit, no. Are you stupid?" So I just sit there in silence, taking in the scenery, which is becoming more sinister by the second because at that moment in time I didn't know what to think. All I know is every cell in my body is screaming at me to find a way out of this situation. I started looking for signposts, houses, any distinctive landmarks, ditches, huge trees, anything that would be able to use to recognize my way back if I had to bolt from his car. Phil can obviously sense I'm nervous, so is just talking away at me about what the job's like and how his staff are friendly, and before I know it he has slowed down to a crawl and he has turned down a little mud rut road with a dense tree line on one side and pitch black open fields on the other. My stomach literally drops and my body contemplates power vomiting all over his car because the reality of what is about to potentially happen hits me like a freight train. I'm thinking to myself, if I jump out here I have to be able to run over muddy fields into literally nowhere, but my imagination starts rather helpfully flashing by images of him grabbing me before I get a chance to get out the door. So I just sit there buckled in the passenger seat, not saying a word. I'm just thinking to myself, if he attacks me, don't make a sound, don't give him the satisfaction of showing him I'm scared. My brain was about as useful as a chocolate teapot, and I was starting to get angry with myself for not doing something, but I was terrified. We come out at the top of this little dirt road and there is a tiny little car park surrounded by woodland with one car sat in it. It was clear there were people in there having sex, and as he pulls near the car I realize he has brought me to a local dogging spot. He turns to me and puts his hand on my knee. "We should do what they are doing," with a deadly serious expression on his face. I make this bizarre half-nervous laugh, half-garbled high-pitched whine, and try to laugh off the suggestion to show I'm not into it and I'm super uncomfortable right now. The alarmed expression on his face at my gurgled cackle, which sounds like 4 swallowed a potato whole, clearly freaks him out, and I'm mentally congratulating myself for my socially awkward and grossly unsexy reaction. "It will be fun, no one will see us," he persists. "No, I don't want to. Plus I'm kind of seeing someone right now." I lie. But he sits there just smiling at me like a Cheshire cat, like I'm going to miraculously change my mind at the sight of his weird face. "Mum will be expecting me home now." I tell him after an insanely uncomfortable 30 seconds more of this as I try my damn hardest not to make eye contact. "I'm sure she won't mind you being out a bit longer with me. You can trust me, you know," he tells me with a straight face as we sit next to the sex wagon parked next to us. I sharply pull my leg away from his grip and I tell him again, "Mum is waiting for me. She will start panicking if I'm not home in the next few minutes. Take me home." I look him straight in the face and he knows that I'm not messing around. "Okay, that's fine, I'll take you back now." Without another word he drives me out of that creepy seedy place and back home. My finger is hovering over the seatbelt button ready to jump out. As we pull up outside our home I breathe a sigh of relief as I can see my safety literally a few feet away, and before he can stop me I'm out and slam the door behind me. As I'm stepping over a tiny little rope fence round our garden he gets out of his car and my heart sinks. "I think I'll pop in and see your mum quickly," he tells me, and I swear I can see a smirk on his face, but I know he is only doing this because he is freaking out, knowing damn well I'm going to tell her. He was trying to delay the inevitable or scare me into keeping my mouth shut. Before I can try and talk him out of it, Mom has heard us pull up and open the front door. I barge past her with one thought on my mind. I head straight into the kitchen, grab a small knife out of the drawer and fly into my little sister's room like a mad woman. "Don't you dare fucking leave this room, no matter what you hear," I whisper to her. Seeing the knife I am stuffing up my sleeve, she just looks at me with panic in her eyes and whispers back, "Okay." I walk back into the living room and the cheeky twat is sat on one sofa, sprawled out, comfortable as fuck like he is at home. I see red, swear to God I felt like the Hulk. I'm ready for the bastard. I awkwardly perch myself on the arm of the sofa Mom is sitting on, the absolute furthest away from him I can manage, as he just sits there making small talk with Mom about how is she finding the area, are the neighbors friendly, all the while keeping his beady little weasel eyes on my every move. "Why don't you come and sit over here next to me?" He pats the sofa cushion next to him. "No, I'm alright here, thanks," I tell him as I'm fidgeting with my sleeve trying to stop the little knife from falling out in front of him. "Why are you sat over there? Come here, honestly I won't bite." He laughs and pats the seat next to him again. "No, I am quite comfortable here. Thank you very much." This time through gritted teeth. My mum, bless her, is looking at each of us during this back and forth like a tennis match, and I can see something is registering in her eyes. She can see my behavior is all off. I've got one bum cheek weirdly perched on the sofa arm, so I'm half stood up half sat down and I'm fiddling about with my sleeve. I'm twitchy as hell and staring my mum in the face intensely, mentally trying to speak to her through the power of telepathy alone. "I must have looked like a nutter. It's getting late now, so I think you should go," she finally speaks. Mum is starting to look anxious now as she had finally twigged that something has happened. Phil gets up, agrees, and mumbles something about having to check something at his shop, when he walks by me and is nearly out the room when he pauses and turns to me and puts out his hand to shake mine. I'm thinking to myself, what a fucking weird thing to do. I take the opportunity to kindly offer him my hand that had the knife. Taking it with a bit more force than is polite, he soon yanked his grubby mitt out of mine when the tip of the blade had jabbed him. He looked down and saw the blade, then he looked at me. I looked at him with such disgust. Phil hightailed it out of our home so fast without another word. A prick for a prick, I told Mum everything. She was fuming. We did discuss going to the police, but there wasn't really a crime committed on his part aside from being a major creep. Sadly, when I mentioned to a couple of girls my age who lived down our street, they clammed up and shot each other a strange look. I guessed he had probably done this type of thing before. We moved away from the area after that, so glad to report I never have to see his smug face ever again. So Kebab Phil, let's not meet.